National President of the Reform Party, Senior Barrister Ashu Emmanuel, who accepted our invitation to address some of the burning issues touching on our national life, and we are so glad he is here with us this evening. Senior Barrister, we're glad to have you with us.
The pleasure is mine, Mr. Kum. Good evening. Good evening to your beloved televiewers.
We are also very, very honored to have you once again on this edition of Prime Hour, the last for this week. We are starting with what is happening in Cameroon. So many persons are not too comfortable with the process of obtaining a national identification card. What is the importance of this very basic document that every adult Cameroonian is expected to have?
Yeah, thank you. You see, quite often we crucify and criticize the police for nothing, because we all know that it is the police that is responsible for issuing national identity cards. But the real problem is that the police are facing very difficult situations which they cannot resolve. I will take the first one. The first problem that the police will are faced with is the problem of the birth certificate. For any person to have to obtain an official national identity card, you have to present your birth certificate. That birth certificate will give rise to the obtention of a certificate of nationality. Now, what happens is that the police find themselves with some people who have more than one birth certificate. So somebody has an identity card, then he comes again to apply for another identity card with a different birth certificate. So, since these things are computerized, when the information clashes in the computer, the file cannot proceed. And you have thousands of those cases lying there. When people complain, they won't tell you that they have problems with the identification. That is just one of them. The other has to do with the order of names. There are people who change their names at will. You have your name in this ID card, you say no, the next one, especially women. Some obtain the first identity card in their maiden name. The second one, they want to obtain it with the husband's name without attaching the marriage certificate. If it is rejected or it now takes time to be obtained, they start complaining. Then you have problems that are inherent to the system itself. The police people, they've signed a contract with a foreign firm that has to carry out, print these national identification cards. Well, in that regard, I think it is necessary that what was done in the case of passports be done in the case of identity cards, so that people can obtain these documents very easily. Now, I want to say that concerning the case of birth certificates, there is laxity in the country when it comes to that domain, because Mr. Kum, your parents originate from womb. If you are born in Kumba, your identity card, your birth certificate will be established by the Kumba Council. And the womb council, from where you originate, will have no trace of it. You see, this is very difficult, because when it comes now to obtaining identity, that's where they'll ask you your origin. On the birth certificate, they don't ask you your origin. So it causes a big problem, because you see a Cameroonian, you don't know where he comes from. The people find you, they say, okay, you come from where? I come from this side. They take your identity, your birth certificate. They want to locate you in your village. How is that possible? Your village has no trace of it. So Reform Party thinks that a citizen has to be identified. If you originate from Manfe and you go give birth to a child in a Bolova, the medical doctor who establishes the certificate of birth, the declaration of birth, should send a copy of that document to the council of your place of origin, so that it should be recorded there as proof that this man, who is of Manfe origin, has been born in a Bolova. So it is Manfe that should give you that birth certificate, not a Bolova. If that is done, there is a second thing. the number that has been given on that birth certificate should serve as part of the numbers of your identity card, of your tax code, I mean, of your certificates. That number should follow you. That way, people will not be tempted to go making many birth certificates. Okay. And you see, if that happens, there will be no way any person will tell you that we are not giving you your identity card because there is a clash in birth certificates.
Yeah, what are the implications of not having this document?
It is very, very difficult, because if you don't have this document, for instance, somebody makes a transfer, they wire you money from abroad. How can you collect it? You need your ID card. You have to be identified before you can collect it. Go even to the bank to open an account. You don't have an ID card. How do you proceed? No way. It's a document you cannot live with. You cannot live without that document as a citizen.
You are tracing the problem to this identification or the birth certificate at the level of the birth certificate. Yes, but if this has, you are tracing it to that level, it's been ongoing for more than 6-7 years today. Why are they not fixing it?
Well, I said that they gave a contract. They gave the contract for the production of these national identity cards to a foreign firm.
Thales. Yes.
And last time I checked, there was a case in the special criminal court against this individual. So possibly it's because it must be because they are awaiting the outcome of that case, so as to cancel that contract and give it to another person. But if you ask my opinion,
what reform party? Yeah.
As a legal expert,
okay,
I would have asked a lawyer to take that matter to court and ask that contract to be cancelled. Let them take the matter to court, ask the court to evaluate the level of execution of the contract, halt it there, and then appoint a different person to do it.
Yes, but is it the fact that is the problem at the level of the contractor, who is an individual, a French company, or the fact that it is not decentralized? What if this were to be given to another person, but who need to get identification documents from across the nation, from all 10 regions?
Mr. Kum, this is something that is very simple to do. We have specialized printers in this country. I don't even know why they have to be looking for foreigners. You can take multi-print in Douala here. They have the possibility of stocking, of having all the names put inside a database, and they can manage the printing of national identity cards. They print more complex documents. I don't see what the identity card is. They can print it. I mean, the Cameroonians can print this ID card. The government should stop giving these contracts to foreigners. We can do this thing here. If the foreigner is not performing well, then let them change it and give it to a local man. Have we not given the Cameroon national team to a local? We are the World Cup. So I think that if we give this thing to a local printer, we are going to have more satisfaction.
If you were to meet the president of Cameroon today, what would be your position as far as the production of our national ID cards are concerned? Well, that is it not also risky to handle such a very important aspect to a foreigner, because they have our database?
Well, it is no secret. We all know that the security database of all Cameroonians is found in Nantes, in France. So it's no secret. If I were president, that will not happen. We shall have a database here in the country. I don't see why a different country should have our security database. We should have it here in the country. Like many other things that concern us should be here. You look at, it's not the only thing. You have enterprises that are carrying out social amenities like water, like light, being handled by foreigners, which is wrong. I mean, if they decide to keep the entire nation in blackout, in darkness, so that weapons can be shipped in, how do you know? How can you stop it? No, it's wrong. Those are things that locals should manage. Especially the state should manage it. If the state cannot, then let it lease it out to locals. Okay, if I am head of state, you can be sure that the state itself will obtain the material that will be necessary to produce the identity cards.
Okay, I want us to talk a little bit about what has happened in Canada with respect to the different separatist groups. Are you aware of what transpired there. We understand that some person, not almost everybody is there. What would be the importance of such a meeting?
Well, thank you. The first thing I noticed was that some people were saying somewhere, oh, the Cameroon government is finally doing the right thing. Then I hear others saying Canada has said that they are not mediators, they are simply hosting. So from what the various actors on the ground are saying, I mean from the diaspora, what the diasporans are saying, one gets a picture of total confusion. I don't know if there's going to be a negotiation. How can people that diverse, that scattered, go to a negotiating table? If there is going to be a negotiation, I think that the government should do the needful. By needful, I mean that the government should give the proper representation to the population. A big chunk of that representation should be from the local population. Another chunk should go to the local elites. Another one to the prominent chiefs. And then another part should go to the diasporans. They shouldn't go outside and say they're negotiating with, no, that is not possible. It's not, you are not going to get satisfactory result, because the people outside there don't feel the pain of the people on the ground. So you cannot negotiate with people outside there, leaving those here.
Okay.
And I think that the people who are more important are those on ground zero, the people who are feeling the pinch. Ask them what they want, they will tell you. I hear some people saying, who are we going to invite? That is total nonsense, because if you ask every subdivision to produce a certain number of people, they will give you the people.
Okay, they will give you the people. But now, what is the significance of what took place in Canada? Is this also a way to say that since the Swiss talks are not showing anything positive, we should open up another window? Well,
the significance to me is that Cameroonians are learning to solve their problems themselves.
Okay.
Let us start talking to each other. That is very important. So if we cannot talk at home, talking abroad is fine. We have been advocating for that here on this panel for a long time. So if Cameroonians can talk to each other, be it at home or abroad, it is a very good thing. We shall talk ourselves into perfection and talk ourselves into solutions.
Yeah, but you say Cameroonians. Are they talking as Cameroonians or Ambazonians? Yes, because they say you say they are Cameroonians.
Mr. Kum, if you look at our brothers who are outside there, which passports, the passport of which country are they having? Those who doesn't have American or British nationality or German nationality, which passports are they having? Are they having Ambazonian passports or they having Cameroon passports? Let's face the facts. They are Cameroonians. The territory they call Ambazonia is Southern Cameroons. And Southern Cameroons, for now, is part of the Republic of Cameroon. So they are Cameroonians.
Okay, you say they are Cameroonians, but not everybody was there. I understand that the Sakulet faction said for them to be there, conditions are supposed to be met. Why do we always have to see persons not agreeing or fighting for the same cause?
Well, like I said, the people of our brothers in the diaspora are so divided. You see, it looks like they have made division their leitmotif, because I will not understand why they have refused to come together to talk to reason under the same thinking cap. They have, if they truly are going towards the same, they are geared towards the same goals, then it would have been, then it is only but normal that they should come with a united front, come with a unified front that can speak their minds. But you have many people standing as, I mean, for now we have something like 4 or 5 IGs. What is that? Who do you listen to? No, the government is right in this type of case to ask the question, who are we talking to?
Okay, you think that the government is right?
It's right. I mean, if you have 5 IGs and, no, it's terrible. Let them come together and put a unified front.
Yeah, but some people think that this division is also orchestrated from some high quarters. How do we understand? And for the 5-6 years, it's difficult to speak as one person. We have IG Sako, we have IG Ayuktabe, we have IG Marianta, IG
Chris Anu. Okay.
we have
IG Ayabacho.
Ayabacho, yes.
Dabi Yerima. Okay, you see, this used to be true in the past, but now like this, it is no longer true because the government used to think that it is the diaspora that controls the trouble on the ground. Now we have seen that Ground Zero is showing signs of independence. In fact, we had a lockdown that was organized and executed by Ground Zero. So any person who is wanting to negotiate with the diaspora without Ground Zero is wasting his time. Because from what we are seeing, the fighters on the ground are becoming more and more independent of the diaspora. So if the people in the diaspora don't want to unite, we have seen how these fighters are, they are making efforts to come together. We hear them talking about unity warriors. That is something, well, it helps them in their own way. If these people could come together and talk as one man, that would have been good. We want this situation to come to an end as soon as possible.
But can we also consider what happened in Canada to be part of what they call backdoor negotiations that may lead to something?
Yeah, I think it is. It can properly be termed as preparatory talks. Preparatory talks. They cannot be the talks themselves, because if you want to have real talks, then all the actors or a representation of all the actors would be on the table.
There will be
especially with international observers and all that.
Yeah, but some persons are quick to look at what is happening in Canada as a government-sponsored stuff. What is wrong, even if it were a government-sponsored stuff, if government were taking that step?
If it is government-sponsored, I will clap for the government, because we have to start talking to ourselves, as I said. So if they have taken that step to make us start talking, then that is very good. It means that it is the beginning of something good. Yeah,
but how do we understand? How do we understand that people are so suspicious of that move, saying that if this is a government stuff, it means nothing is going to work? And we are the same persons who say government is not making any move. Now, where should a move come from?
Thank you, Mr. Kum. If the various IGs were to organize some talks, do you think the government will come? If they invite the government, will the government come? The only person here who is a legally instituted authority is the government. And it's only the government that can organize talks in this particular case. Or some international mediator. The IGs, if all these IGs come together, they can organize no talks. So the only person competent to do so is the government or any international mediator. So I think that those who are criticizing the effort as being government, well, they want to be cutting the branch on which they are sitting.
Okay, you are comfortable that the government should engage?
I am happy if the government is the one organizing, because they are the only people who have local standard to do so.
Yeah, when you got information that the Swiss talks actually has no headway, were you sad or were you surprised, and can you understand why it did not work out?
I got information about that collapse about 2 years before.
Okay.
About 2 years before, when it finally came out, it was a matter of course, because something that is a nullity is a nullity. Because you cannot have talks between two people, one of whom is not engaged. The government has showed no signs of engagement in the Swiss talks, so I didn't expect anything from it.
You did not expect anything?
Anything.
Because government was not engaged?
They showed no signs of engagement.
And were you very comfortable with the
Of course,
position?
I couldn't be comfortable with something that was going to be a failure in the situation where we want a solution. We want solutions, so we want things that will succeed, not failures.
You want things that will succeed and not failures. But in this case, we are not too clear about the role Canada is going to play. What do you expect Canada to do? And your position, are you too confident about the international community waging in to force things to work out?
Okay, I expect Canada if it is the government, because we have to look at this, whether it is the Canadian government or a pressure group in Canada or some organization in Canada that is coming forth. If it is the Canadian government, I will expect them to come forward and play the real role they're supposed to play. That is, act as mediators. Call the parties to the table as mediators and not sit behind to say, I'm providing the ground for you people to talk. Let them act as mediators and see to it that there is a well-organized peace talks on the way. Now, you asked whether I'm comfortable with international community still coming in. Now, we have seen from recent events that international community will only come in where they have their interests, their vested interests. In Cameroon, we know that the people who have vested interests are mostly the French. The Americans said so, that the French have more interest in Cameroon than any other country. So, when you look at the French side, the French don't seem to be moving much, because when the French president came here, he was asked the question by journalists what he thought about the Anglophone crisis. I was not very surprised to hear his answer, because he was moving from decentralization to what is it, regionalism or what? Total nonsense. Anyway, it is correct, because he is president of France and not president of Cameroon, and he should allow Cameroonians to decide what they want for their country and not tell us what we should do for our country.
Okay, you don't want the French president to decide what should be done. Please, if you're watching the program and you have a question for Senior Barrister Ashu Emmanuel, he's sitting in here today as National President of the Reform Party to talk about issues touching on our national life. Please do well to send the question to me through the WhatsApp numbers on your screen there. I'll put the question through to him. I'll start with this one. It's a question to you, Senior Barrister Ashu. If you were to propose a solution for the ongoing crisis, will you advocate for federation or an independence of Southern Cameroon?
Thank you. Officially, Reform Party stands for a confederation. That's okay. Our official stand. Now, it suffices to state that the form of the state is not the business of any Cameroonian. It is the business of all Cameroonians. I will think that it is better for all of us to sit on the table and put the thing on the table. Let us all discuss it. Okay. And the good sense should come out of the negotiation table. I cannot impose my opinion on other people. I have an opinion, just as any other Cameroonian has a right to his own opinion. So, if you ask me, my party stands for confederation. Okay. But the way we think that Cameroonians should decide on the form of the state, it is not something one person should do. Okay,
but that is what is, you have your manifesto there?
I do, I have it.
The Reform Party of Senior Barrister Ashu Emmanuel is contained in this party manifesto. National Political Party legalized on the 28th of July 1997. With motto peace, merit, justice, and progress. Now, you say this is what you stand for, the Confederation for Cameroon. How does that take care of the respective interests of the communities that make up Cameroon?
Thank you. If you look the last page of our manifesto, you see the administrative chart. Now, we stand for a confederation, meaning that we should respect our history, and if you want to follow our desire, you say, okay, let us have the two parts of Cameroon. In the two parts now, we have to apply this administrative part, this administrative chart. We don't want 70 ministries, a government of 70 ministries. We want local government. And that local government is going to be translated in the following manner. All the ministers, 9 ministers, 1 prime minister, that makes 10. Each region giving a minister. Then you now have at the level of the governor's office, the level of the division, the level of the councils and the village of group of villages, you have a representative of each minister. So you have a government, 9 government departments at the governor's office, 9 at the divisional office, 9 at the council, 9 at the village level. You see, this brings development straight to the people, right to the grassroots.
Okay,
you bring the decision, all decisions will be taken by the people right down. It's no longer Yaoundé. Nobody goes to Yaoundé anymore.
Okay, let me take some few messages. They search give ID Fabrice Moulin. Okay, not too clear. Sir, you are talking of international mediators. Is this country not having mediators? That is also an issue. Why should we always depend on international mediators?
Thank you, sir.
When you rightly said we have Cameroonians who should solve their problems.
Thank you, sir. We were talking about what Canada. We expect from Canada. People are already in Canada. So that's why I said Canada should play the role of mediator. I had earlier said on this very channel, not today, that we have people. If you even asked me that question, why I could not be a mediator? Why not? We have people like myself, people like Ntumfo Nikoale. Well, to me, it's of blessed memory, but we have people here who can act as mediators, who are objective enough to act as mediators. But there should be the will on the part of the government to accept that mediation. The will on the part of the diaspora to accept. The will on the part of the people, the population, to accept the mediation. Okay, everybody. And there should be somebody to kick it off. If I were to say, I want to mediate, what weight is the government going to give to that request? So that is the problem with local mediation. It has to carry some weight.
It has to carry some weight. Now, after Canada, maybe those were just consultations. Some persons were not there. No, not everybody endorsed the Canada confab. What should follow what happened in Canada?
Well, I consider that was, as I said earlier, something like an invitation to treat. That was preparatory talks. So what should follow? We should have more of such meetings. Maybe one for Ground Zero, one for the elites. Why not an all-Anglophone meeting? So that they come together and put their problems on the table and decide on what to consider the main issues if and when they will be called together to come and talk.
Now, the EU ambassador to Cameroon, granting an interview to Loju newspaper, says that he wants an inclusive dialogue. What would you describe or understand by inclusive dialogue? EU's position is not too stable as far as what is happening in Cameroon. They keep flip-flopping. Today they say this and tomorrow they say the other, indexing one or the other side. Well,
I thank the EU ambassador for saying that, because we have already had something we called an inclusive dialogue, which everybody said has failed. So if they are asking for inclusive dialogue, it means that they consider that what happened, what was termed the major national dialogue, is a failure. So this time around, we should have a dialogue wherein the topics to be discussed are not tailored to suit whosoever's whims and caprices. We should discuss everything that concerns our livelihood, everything that concerns our living together, everything that is in the best interest of the country.
That is what is going to...
That is what will make it inclusive. And the other aspect of the inclusion is that every actor, all the various groups should be represented. Yes. We all know that many Cameroonians were prevented from coming by the threat of arrest.
Yeah, but you call persons Cameroonians who say they are not Cameroonians.
No. I asked you earlier, they are moving around Europe or America with the passport of which country? How can they say they're not Cameroonians? Then they come from which country? Then why are they interested in what is happening here if they're not Cameroonians? they should show out their country. The fact that they're interested in what is happening here tells you that they are Cameroonians.
Okay, they are Cameroonians.
They are not happy with what is happening, but that does not make them foreigners.
Yeah, but okay. I'm not using the green, red, yellow. When they go around, they use the white and blue.
I want to see.
Yeah, but,
Mr. Kum,
yes.
the World Cup is coming. Just watch many of them when Cameroon will be playing. You know that they're Nigerians or Cameroonians.
Okay, but how do we understand this positioning of the EU? Today they are saying this. Tomorrow they are saying that can the EU do more than just making statements of take care, we want inclusive dialogue, we are concerned about human rights abuses, we are doing this and that.
Mr. Kum, the EU's position is due to the fact that the government of Cameroon has always given the impression to the world that what is plaguing this nation is an internal problem that they can solve internally. And that is the reason why the EU is saying inclusive dialogue. You say you can solve it internally. You have come up with major national dialogue. We want you to organize an inclusive one that will be better than the first one. So it is because of the position that the government has been taking, saying that it is an internal problem, which can be solved internally. But we all know that it is not an internal problem.
Okay.
It is an international law problem.
It is an international problem, but the international community is
international law problem.
Yeah, but the international community seemingly has been feet dragging on this issue, looking at it from a distance, and also giving us the impression that they are more concerned with what is happening in Ukraine. We've seen the reaction. Yes, but we say it's an international problem. They end at the level of just making declarations, condemnations, and a host of others. What else can they do?
Well, if they are minded, if they are so minded, they are the ones who could be very good mediators. If they want to mediate, I mean, they have a very competent group to serve as mediators. And that is something to which I will even invite them, because if they were to sit up and say, please, come and sit on the table, let us oversee this mediation, it will just go easily.
Yeah, you think that they can do that, but judging by their actions and positionings since the advent of what is happening in Cameroon, do you see them interested?
I can see them being interested because the EU is in Cameroon for their economic interests. And those interests are in jeopardy. They are in serious jeopardy. And if they were not, they would not even ask you to organize a dialogue. Now that they have started feeling the pinch by reason of the economic downturn, well, they have asked for inclusive dialogue. If after the inclusive dialogue there is still trouble, then they will have to shift gear and go to something else, maybe mediation.
Maybe mediation. Okay, somebody has this question for you, Senior Barrister. Good evening, sir. Please, can our able barrister tell us how possible and realistic is it for separatists in Cameroon to be given an opportunity for dialogue?
Yeah, thank you for that. If you want separatists to be given an opportunity to sit on the dialogue table, well, we saw some who were presented at the major national dialogue and were called repentant separatists. Well, we are not talking about those ones. We are talking about active separatists in the bush. Well, that can only be possible if the dialogue is taking place out of Cameroon. Because if it is within Cameroon, nobody will want to carry himself and offer to the police to be arrested. So if we want the separatists to attend the dialogue, then that meeting has to take place out of Cameroon, and there has to be some guarantee of security for the presence of everybody to be felt.
Okay. From today, I will be participating in your programs in Sokapa Mbongo in Dizange subdivision. Yes, I know Mbongo very well. I also know Mbambu. I have worked under the palms there. That is where I used to work my money for to go to school. I'm glad to read from you out there. Thanks. This one says, thanks very much. Barrister Emmanuel, wish to find out if the Cameroon government is also part of the meeting in Canada, or it involves only the separatists as the topic for your discussion reads. Thank you, sir. Yes, we don't have clear information on who was there or not. A question for Barrister. Don't you think a more younger person should stand as presidential candidate for your party? Let's give chances to the youth. Benjamin is writing from Belgium.
Thank you, Mr. Benjamin. If you can come, if you are younger and you can come to my party and you are elected, why not? It's not a matter of Barrister Ashu. I'm just the national president. In fact, if you can show the party members, the militants, that you are competent enough, you are knowledgeable enough in the party plan of action, why not? It is not my father's property. I'm just the president.
He's just the president. Hello, Mr. Liu and crew. Good evening and thanks for this topic today. Permit me drift slightly to passport issues in Cameroon. Please, why is court judgment not part of the list of documents required for the processing of passport? But when you visit their various passport centers to deposit your file for the processing of your passport, they ask for court judgment. At that point, you are required to pay them due to the absence of a court judgment. Almost everyone going in for a passport faces this issue. Please let the barrister enlighten us on this. John Batty is writing from Limbe.
Okay. The thing is, when you deliver a child, you have, I think, 3 months to take this child to the nearest civil status center and make a birth certificate. If you fail to do that, you can only proceed by way of a declaratory judgment. So you go to the court and obtain a declaratory judgment that will enable you now, that by which the court will authorize the civil status registrar to issue you a birth certificate. So what he is saying here is that people who apply for passports with those birth certificates on which it is mentioned that the birth certificate was issued subsequent to a declaratory judgment, they go to the passport office without the judgment. Now, please let me inform you, if that is your case, always accompany your birth certificate, with the declaratory judgment, because that judgment is part and parcel of the birth certificate. So if you don't have it, that is where you open the road for wahala. You open the road for people to ask you for monies. Please, if your birth certificate was issued after you obtain a declaratory judgment, make sure that you always have it handy. You should accompany the birth certificate. That way, you will not have any problem with the immigration authorities.
Now, let's stay with the call by the Cameroon EU Ambassador, who is calling for dialogue. Should Cameroonians actually trust in the power of the EU or that of France and Britain, who had direct implications in what is happening here?
Sorry, I think that the EU is more credible than France and Britain, because the EU is here to do business.
Okay.
And they have, in fact, the EU has more business here that profits the Cameroonians than France and Britain. If you look at our penal code, as our civil criminal procedure code, I think it was sponsored by the EU. Can you show me one of those major legislations that was sponsored by France or Britain? You see, the French, in my opinion, are here to perpetuate their colonial legacy, which they want to transform into a new colonial legacy. They are not working in the interest of Cameroon people at all. They are struggling to move from the position of a neo-colonialist to that of a partner, which they are doing very sluggishly. You can see what is happening in other countries where people get up and say, no, we don't want the French government anymore. We don't want to work with France anymore. So that is what makes me say that I prefer EU to France or Britain. I said here that many people think that Britain has abandoned Cameroon. That's not true. Britain has a trade agreement with Cameroon. Britain is the one training our soldiers. They don't say it, but you see, they are the ones doing it. So, they are active, they are there, they have their interests. So, somebody who has an interest, will you think that he will work against his interests? No, certainly not. But the EU is here. They are the ones carrying out humanitarian ventures. I don't know how many humanitarian ventures France has ever carried out here. Most of their things are money oriented. They used to have French cultural centers. How many exist today? Just to give an example, you see, they are drifting towards money making and abandoning the other side of culture and
but EU is also into heavy business.
Yes, but I told you that Cameroon. The EU sponsored our criminal procedure code.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu and Senior Barrister. As Senior Barrister, you said the government has nobody to talk with. Can the government not talk with Ayub Tabe and his team in prison? Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu. And warm regards to Senior Barrister Ashu Emmanuel. I wish to ask the Senior Barrister 2 questions. First, if he is made a president of Cameroon today, what measures will he put in place to bring an end to what today called the Anglophone problem? Secondly, most politicians in Cameroon today come up with political parties and sometimes give us the impression that they are there to fight for the public. Once their mouths are oiled by the powers that be, most at times after giving them positions in government, they become pro-CPDM. What assurance is the Senior Barrister giving the people to prove to them that he won't do same? Mr. Nelson Ejole is writing from Damas in Yaoundé.
Thank you very much. We all know that the war is being maintained, is being organized and maintained by some people in government. We all know that. We all know that the war is pitching the national army against people who have taken up arms. Now, do you think that if you have Reform Party president or candidate at the presidency, he will want to send the army to go and kill his people? Now, the question was asked what I would do if I were president of this country to address this issue of the ongoing war. The first thing I would do is create an enabling situation. First of all, halt the war, stop the killing. People should stop dying. Because when I say people should stop dying, it's not only civilians. We should stop losing soldiers that we have spent a lot of money to train. You train people for 2 years, then they just go, you send them to go to a war front where they don't even see their enemy. They don't even know the person against whom they're fighting. They are exploring the vehicle, and how do you account for that? So we should first of all stop the killing, halt the killing. After that, we create an enabling situation where people sit on the table and we address the root causes of all this. Let us revisit the root causes. Do what we were supposed to do in 1961, that we are not done till today. That is, define the terms of our living together. That is what we have to do. So the definition of the terms of our living together entails determining the form of the state and many other things. You may think that the form of the state alone is something that is the most important thing. No, sir. There is the division of the national revenue. A hungry man is an angry man. So the Anglophones are angry today because they are hungry. We should take care of how the national budget, how the national wealth is being divided. So those are things to be put on the table. Oil is being extracted from southern Cameroon since independence. But what does southern Cameroon benefit from that? And then it's not just southern Cameroon alone. All of the other areas where you have mineral wealth, we have to decide. Because if you are you are saying that southern Cameroon is rich in petroleum, but Betare Oya is rich in gold. The other places are rich in bauxite. Other places are rich in diamond. Others in uranium. So we have to determine how this national wealth has to be shared. Those are things that should be put on the table. So if you make me president, the first thing is we stop the war, stop the killing. The second thing, we bring everybody to the table. We create an enabling environment for people to sit on the table, and we all address these issues like brothers and sisters, objectively.
Okay, we address the issues objectively. Now, the EU, can the EU force the hand of a sovereign state, which is Cameroon?
Certainly not.
Okay.
They can't. The EU, being a powerful organization, cannot force the hand of any sovereign state. They are partners. They are not our mentors. They're our partners. They can't force the hands of Cameroon. They can only persuade, advise, but they can't force the hand. No way.
Okay, they can't force the hand of the government. Now, good evening, Mr. Liu. You is very good. I want to tell Barrister that apart from Anglophone crisis, worst problem we have is ID card. I have my ID, is more a year. It's not out, and I have all my correct documents, and that's how millions are passing through. Tabe Clovis is writing from Kumba. Okay. Hello, Mr. Leon Crew. Good evening, and thanks for this topic. Permit me. Okay, I'm sure I read your question already. Good evening, Mr. Kum. Is Tabi in Limbe? Any talks between the government and Anglophones without Ayuk Tabi and co at the front line is no talks? But somebody asks that if the government does not know, why not talk with Ayuk Tabi? But you think that if talks needs to hold, those who are on ground from all the divisions,
everybody has to be on the table. If you want to make it inclusive, bring everybody. If you talk to Ayuk Tabi and you don't include the people in the diaspora, you don't include the ground zero, you have not done anything.
Yeah, but today we have I think 4 or 5 IGs,
yes,
who actually commands things on the ground.
I told you that from what we are seeing recently, the ground is breaking away. They are taking more independence from the IGs. So we can have 5 IGs, but they don't control the ground up to 60%. They don't. I even heard that the people on the ground, they were proposing to have something like a ground zero president. So you can see how far it's going.
Ground zero president.
Yes.
Where will he be ruling from?
Thank you.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Kum and Senior Barrister Ashu. Please, Barrister, I want you to talk about this because it's real, and I had a friend who went directly to the Yaoundé where the ID card is being made and pay 50,000 francs with the connection of a police officer. The person in charge of the ID card was handed the money, and immediately he deleted the old information of the first ID card and put the information of the new ID card and handed to the guy immediately, and he left with his new ID card. What can you say about this, Barrister? I'm called Ernest, writing from Libe.
Thank you.
But this is corruption.
Thank you. I explained this thing earlier. I said some people, they go with, after you've had the first ID card, you now decide to go to have a different one with a different birth certificate or with different names. So the information will conflict in the computer. And when that happens, the police have no option but to shift your application to the side. So you see, that's an example of somebody who went there now, and he's telling you that he corrupted the officer who was there, and the man deleted the old history and now issued the new one. Now, you see, something has to be done by the state. I think there should be some presidential intervention by which the president should order that all those past, all the conflicting informations be discarded and ID cards issued to people. Because if that is not done, this is a situation that would remain for years unsolved.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu, and to the Senior Barrister. Please ask the Senior Barrister this. The Anglophone crisis has brought about other crises in the nation like that of the ID card. What is his party doing to help Cameroonians? Ben is writing from Bamenda. He's been answering this question over and over. Good evening, Mr. Kum. Please ask the Barrister if a court declaration is needed to do an ID card, and if yes, can't you use a photocopy of your expired or missing ID card in place of a court declaration? What is the penalty for not having an ID card with you if held up by the police? Thanks. Damien is writing from Bafusan. Yes, because
yes, you see, you don't need a court judgment to make an ID card. You need a declaratory judgment to obtain a birth certificate, and it's the birth certificate that will enable you have the second nationality that you will present to the police pool with your birth certificate to obtain the ID card. So if you don't have an ID card, it's an offense. It's a criminal offense. Please try and have it. It's a criminal. You can go to prison for that. It's a criminal offense. So please, what you need to obtain the ID card is not a court judgment for ID card. It's a declaratory judgment to help you obtain a birth certificate.
Okay, Barrister Beck, you answer my question. My question is, can the government not talk with Ayuk Tabi and his team in prison? I'm you, Peter, writing from Banyu.
Okay, thank you. I said earlier the government can talk. The government has been talking to Ayuk Tabe. They can talk to him. They have been talking to him. But if you want to solve the crisis, you have to talk to all the actors, all the interested parties.
Okay, you have to talk to everybody to be able to sort out the issues. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I'm Olivia from Sancho. Want to give our father a handshake in the studio. He makes me feel that we need competent leaders who reason like him. His speeches are indeed touchable. I really need his contact for many other worries. Senior barrister, they need your contact. Can I give it? Can I share?
You can share.
Your contact with them. Yes. So you think that the EU cannot force the Cameroon government?
They can't. No.
Now, if the EU and the international community cannot force the Cameroon government to move things, how do we sort things out?
Now, you see, the only way you can force a country is by the sanctions regime. And you know, sanctions are, well, they can be pronounced by the UN, can be pronounced by powerful states. Well, sanctions have their, they at times they serve as they have the boomerang effect. When you sanction somebody and the person substitutes your whatever thing you were giving him with some other one, and you find out that the person, instead of suffering, will be thriving. You can look at the Russian example. After all the sanctions that were meted on Russia by European countries and America, we expected Russia to be on its knees, but no, they seem to be waxing strong because they have found an alternative to the sanctions. They've gone towards China, North Korea, Turkey, and they are doing brisk business. So I think it's not a very good thing for people to come up with sanctions. You look at the case of the ECOWAS that was sanctioning Mali and Burkina Faso. How far have they gone? You see, other countries come in. Non-member countries come in to help those countries. You see, when you say, okay, we're not going to give you goods, supply you goods, you are creating a vacuum that will be filled in by others. You see, another state will come in and then fill that vacuum and do good business. So, you see, it's not easy to succeed with sanctions. The EU may say, okay, we're no longer going to supply you this or that product. But a neighboring country that sees that it can make money out of that, can produce, can supply that product and fill in the gaps. So that's why I think that it is not very easy for the EU or any other country to force Cameroon to do anything.
Okay, no country can force Cameroon to do anything. I want us to talk a little bit about the 2025 elections. Is the Reform Party going to run for these elections?
Yeah, Mr. Leo, you see, I have been saying it very much because today in Cameroon, many people are afraid that the Frankist movement with Mr. Frank Biya, they are going to get France. When they see Frank Biya and President Macron, they say, oh, Macron has come to tell Frank that he will be the next president. Please, it is Cameroonians who choose their president, not the French that will choose the president for the Cameroonians. CPDM is enjoying its position today because of the majority they have at the polling stations, not because they enjoy majority in the whole country. And this is created by voter apathy. People abstain from registering and they abstain from participating in the elections. This situation can be overturned. I'm talking especially to Southern Cameroonians because you want this war to end. You can overturn this situation by registering massively to vote. Any Cameroonian who thinks that it does not want CPDM to prolong its stay in office, register so that we vote them out of office. If you do that, 2025, you will vote Reform Party into office and we shall end the war, end the economic crisis. You see, look, Reform Party is not just about ending the war. This is a party that has the solution to end unemployment by creating jobs from our own means. We don't want foreign investors. We are capable of creating jobs from our own means. We are capable of ending corruption in this country. We don't have enough time, otherwise we can take that and explain to you how corruption can be ended. We are capable of ending misappropriation of public funds. That one I can touch simply because it's just something straight. We have to get a central bank that will have 4 functions. It should be the State's Bank, the Bank's Bank, the regulator of the economy, and the executor of the national budget. We don't know why ministers should be allowed to keep billions. No, sir. All the state's money should be in the central bank. Nobody should be allowed to touch. If that happens, nobody will be able to misappropriate any kobo. We put in place a mechanism by which withdrawals from the central bank will be severely scrutinized. Reform Party, if you vote Reform Party into power, you have the possibility also of getting your economy back on its rails. We are in a country where it is the Minister of Finance, Minister of Commerce who tell you the price of a bag of rice. Sir, we need this country's economy to be run by the market, not by ministers. So we are going to put a market economy in this country. And you see, you want to talk of market economy. You cannot do that without having a banking law. This country has no banking law. We need a banking law that would define the terms, the conditions of access to credit, and how to reimburse this credit. And this law has to make sure that it prohibits any person who gives out money from coming to sell the house or the property that has been mortgaged for that loan. Because when you do that, as is currently the case, you make the banks owners, eventual owners of big chunks of the towns, because they will, they use your land title, you cannot pay, they seize it, go to the court.
So you are saying that the Reform Party is going to run for elections 2025?
We are going to be very present there because we have that conviction that the third president of Cameroon will come from Reform Party.
Okay. So 2025 Reform Party is running for...
Or earlier. It can be 2025 or earlier.
Yeah, okay. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Please, how do we think we can win the elections with more than 300 parties instead of joining to form a strong opposition?
Thank you. We can win the elections. You see, when you talk of more than 300 parties, inside those parties, you have CPDM submarines, which are styled as parties of the presidential majority. Mm-hmm. We all know them. So if you are looking at the genuine opposition party, they're not up to 5.
Okay.
We all know those parties. I am saying that Reform Party is singling itself out of those, because if you want to go back into that old game of saying opposition come together, we have seen that before. The submarines of CPDM will come in, and at the last moment they'll blow up the whole thing, and you end up having no coalition at all. Mm-hmm. So we are not going to that. We are asking all the Southern Cameroonians to register, and then come election, they let them put their votes on Reform Party. You see what will be produced, because the party is already well established throughout the country. So if you have those votes plus the votes that the Southern Cameroonians are going to bring, you are going to have a huge chunk of votes that no fraud from CPDM can overturn.
Good evening, Mr. Leo. Please talk with all the IGs. Alex is writing from Boya. Mr. Leo, good evening. This question to Senior Barrister. In case what a Frenchman calls on ne sait jamais, there is separation in Cameroon, even not now, but in the future. What will be the disadvantage and advantage of both East Cameroon and French Cameroon?
Thank you. You see, if it happens, we don't pray for it. But if it happens, there are going to be advantages and there will be disadvantages. The advantages is that of the two Cameroons, the stronger one will pull the weaker one. And from the love we see among these Cameroonians, don't fool yourself. If Southern Cameroons were to have independence, you will not keep away your brothers. They will follow you to prosperity. They will join you. They may not join you institutionally. They will come there in practice. On daily to live with you and to do business. So please, why be from your head that even if Southern Cameroon is independent, you will be independent of Franco, you will be free of Francophone? No, that's not possible, because these are people who have learned to live together. Nobody imagined that with all the bombings and all the fire burning of houses, the population that ran to the Francophone area was going to be welcomed with open hands. Yet it happened. We saw women in the market share their market tables into two and say, my sister, take this side, Nayam this, sell and be two for fine small for chop. So the love between Cameroonians is such that even if we had two states, we are still going to continue to live together in those two states.
Okay. Mr. Barrister, is it not good for the government to increase the number of production centers of the ID cards, given the fact that they are talking about decentralization? That is every region having a production center.
Well, there is a need to have a national grid. So you have to, even if you have regional centers, there will be the problem of giving a continuous one numbering system that will include everybody. So if you decentralize and say, okay, Littoral should produce its own, then you have LT1 to 1000. Well, some system can be found, can be devised to organize that. But the problem here is not a matter of who produces and who doesn't produce. The problem is that there is a technical problem there. I believe that the police have this, they have to solve the problem they have with that former producer. When they finish that problem, then they can now be free, legally free, to engage with another person. I think that's what is disturbing them.
Good evening, sir. No good inclusive dialogue can take place with Ayuk Sisiku and co still in prison. Let them be released. How can Chris Anu and Sako be invited to Cameroon when Ayuk Sisiku and co are still in prison? Would they not be arrested after or before such a dialogue? When a frog in front fall into a hole, the rest behind takes caution. John Ayuk is writing from Kumba. I'm not sure anybody said on this platform that it should not be released. Good evening, Mr. Liu and Senior Barrister. International politics is simply protection of self-interest. So saying that France or any other country that has interest in Cameroon should call the conflicting parties to the table for negotiation is like removing food from their mouth with their own hands, and it's not feasible. Shukwi is writing from Chang. Shukwi should be a Man United fan. Good evening, sir. Please, I wish to know how can a non-Cameroonian born in Cameroon or having been born from childhood to adult, the possibility or possibilities to nationalism as a Cameroonian? Thank you. Jojo is writing from United Arab Emirates.
Thank you, sir. You naturalize. You naturalize. You put an application to the President of the Republic, care the Minister of Justice, keeper of the seals, and give all your information. You must have, you say you were born in Cameroon, then you wait until you are 21, then you opt now for Cameroonian nationality. Then you put your application to naturalize to the President of the Republic, care Minister of Justice. I will advise you, if you are doing that type of application, please get a bailiff to record statements from your neighbors, because formerly they used to ask the police to conduct what they call morality investigation. But now they no longer do it. So you need something that has to replace that investigation. You get a bailiff to record statements from your neighbors, from your pastor, if you are a Christian, from your imam, if you are a Muslim, and if you are educated, they can record statements from the principal of your school, of schools that you have gone through. Let them testify as to your morality, and then you attach all that to your application and send to deposit it at the Ministry of Justice. When the ministry finishes with it, you will send it to the presidency, and if the president is satisfied, they will grant you a nationality.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu and Senior Barrister Ashu. I wish to ask Senior Barrister Ashu what is his opinion on the appeal court judgment in Nigeria where a separatist leader was acquitted on grounds of wrongful arrest and detention. Alo Stephen is writing from Kumba. Mr. Liu, can some of us be clarified with the origin of the name Ambazonia? I'm lost with that name because I knew of Southern Cameroons before 1961. Vera writing.
Thank you. It's the second time we've seen an African court stand up high. We saw that first in Kenya when Raila Odinga seized the court and the presidential election was nullified. Now Nigeria is standing tall because a judge says, look, the law is not meant to serve as decoration. You cannot carry out wrongful arrest and expect the court to give vent to that type of misbehavior. So I think it is something to be upheld and applauded. The Court of Appeal judge stood up high and should be applauded for the good work. Now, talking about the origin of Ambazonia, Goji Dinka was the one who said the name Cameroon comes from prawns. The entire Cameroon does not produce prawns. The prawns were found by Portuguese in the Vuri River. So that it's a misrepresentation of who we are. That's so he said to come up with a name that looks like us. He took the Ambas Bay and said the land behind Ambas Bay can be called Ambazonia. So he proposed that Southern Cameroon should be renamed as Ambazonia. So that is it. But the legal name is Southern Cameroon. It's not Ambazonia. I have never wanted to associate myself with Ambazonia. Ambazonia is Fon Goji Dinka's brainchild.
Okay, it's good evening, Mr. Liu. My question to Senior Barrister. By discussing with separatists, don't you think that Mr. Ayuk Tabe should be released from prison just as Nigerian separatist leader?
Thank you.
Nnamdi Kanu, so that proper talks begins. Fabrice writing from Libreville in Gabon. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I think the only way CPDM can be removed from power is by voting. One time on Prime Hour on CRTV, the stats for the last presidential elections was 5 million registered and only 3 million votes out of the total of 25 million Cameroonians. This is to tell you that Cameroonians don't vote but want a change. The CPDM is using this idea for its advantage. That's why there are very few voting centers. The process of getting a voter's card is equally very tedious. CPDM is capitalizing on the frustration of Cameroonians and winning elections. Sandrine is writing from Bamenda. Now, we're talking about 2025 elections.
There was something important that was mentioned there. I think before there is any meaningful negotiation, there should be an amnesty. Many people are talking of Ayuk Tabe, but there are many Cameroonians out of this country who cannot come back. They have been blacklisted. And their contribution to nation building, it can be good. You see, so if you want to have meaningful dialogue, like most of those IG members, most of them cannot come here, they have been blacklisted. So you need to have a general amnesty of people, everyone in prison, like Ayuk Tabe and all the rest. Then all the people in diaspora who have done things that you and I don't like, you have to give them a general amnesty so that we come to the table with free hands and fresh heads. That way, we can now discuss freely without any fear. They should ask the population to give its representation. For instance, you can ask every subdivision to produce 5 people, and they will give you the people. Those ones are more legitimate than even the parliamentarians who were elected from Yaoundé. Okay.
Good evening, Barrister. I want to ask, if you were to be the president of this country, what will you do about this issue? What issue? Good evening, Mr. Kum Tabi in Limbe. Any talks between the government and the Anglophones without Ayuk Tabi? Okay, it will not produce results. Okay. With an old ID, what are the documents needed to get a new ID? Go to the next police station beside your house. They are going to give you that information. Hello, Mr. Liu. Britain and France are responsible for most of the problems we face in Cameroon today. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I wish to thank the barrister on the issue of getting a passport when your birth certificate carries a judge declaration. Many of us did not have knowledge on that. Renda is writing from Boya. Good evening to you, Renda. Hi, Mr. Liu. Question to barrister. Why all the opposition parties cannot come together as one big force to challenge Mr. Biya for the upcoming 2025 presidential elections? He answered that already, that the Reform Party is distinct you're distinguishing yourself.
Yes,
that is
distancing ourselves.
Okay. Good evening, sir. The barrister has not still given his number. I'm Mr. Ngowe Raymond, writing from Limbe. Mr. Ngowe, I just sent you the barrister's.
Put it on the screen.
Yes, I just sent you the barrister's number. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I'm Collins from Limbe. I want to congratulate you. I'm really enjoying your program and the topic of today. Now, we are talking about 2025 presidential elections, and Anglophones think that this is also time to have an Anglophone president. How do we get an Anglophone take over President Biya? Thank
you. You see, when I mentioned this idea on Equinox Television, many people thought I was a fool. They thought I was a madman. You see, but you cannot have a country where everybody is supposed to have equal rights, and then some other people are looked upon as people who cannot be president. And some ministers even exercise that madness to go on air and say Anglophones cannot be president. Nonsense. It is time for an Anglophone president. Now, you see, many Francophones you talk to will tell you that Cameroon will stand to gain if we have an Anglophone president. I will give you some of the elements. The first one is that Anglophones were brought up by the British to have an independent mind. This system of indirect rule abandoned Southern Cameroonians to themselves. We did not depend politically on Britain. And you see, we have grown up in that spirit to do things for ourselves. If you look at the way our villages were all developed, we don't depend on people. We have what we call self-reliant development. And we had our traditional structures that enable people. This month we roof your house, the next month we roof your neighbor's own, just like that, until the whole village has roofed houses, corrugated iron sheets throughout. So if you have an Anglophone as president, you are going to benefit from this ingenuity, this upbringing that enables the citizen to rely first of all on himself. You rely on himself. You see, if you look at this CPDM governments, these successive governments that we have had in this country, they live on borrowing. That is not the Southern Cameroonians mentality. You don't borrow to live. You first of all produce, you store, and when there is a rainy day, you take from what you have stored to use. That is our own mentality. We don't live by borrowing. Today, when you look at the government, we are borrowing from this man. You take from Paul and pay Peter. You don't have, then you call for debentures. No, sir, that is not a way of life. We have to have a national budget that is properly prepared and run. You have to get reserves. Cameroon has no reserves. They tell you that our reserves are in France. Nonsense. When will you take those reserves? We have to get our own central bank, and we have to get our own reserves. We have to stop this nonsense of borrowing, this reliance, this excessive reliance on IMF and World Bank. We have to stop importation. We have to produce. How can Cameroon be importing corn, importing red oil? This is nonsense. You see, we need an Anglophone president who knows exactly what to do. Look, don't even look far. Reform Party is here. We know what to do. What to do to put an end to all this economic marasma that into which the CPDM government has thrown us. Now, you see, after independence, France signed 11 treaties with its former colonies. Some of those things were even signed in 1959. Did Southern Cameroon sign anything with France? So if you have an Anglophone as president, and then Anglophone successfully puts the nation on the table, you see, many people don't understand. When Reform Party says we need a confederation brings into existence a new state that is not responsible for all those nonsense that were signed. Use your heads and think. You need an Anglophone president who will bring about the existence of a new state that will only look towards the future. And that is very important. You are tied down to be using some other person's money. You cannot make your own money. Why? Southern Cameroonians have signed nothing to use of any person's money. So their hands are free. If you say you are coming up with an Anglophone president, then the doors are open for you to get your own money, to do whatever thing you want to do. So please, it is a blessing to have an Anglophone president. It is not a calamity, as I hear some people saying. You want to doubt me? Go back to 1961 and see which of the two Cameroons was more developed. You understand why I say it's a blessing. Because Southern Cameroons know just what to do to get prosperity.
Okay, good evening to all in the studio. Please, Barrister, is it possible for us Cameroonians to have our own currency? Prophet Gift is writing from Yaoundé. Good evening to you, Prophet. Good evening. Let me ask, is this real? Please, I want to know. Please, what is real? Your question is not complete. Good evening, sir. I'm Abraham from Yaoundé. For 1 year, 6 months, my ID card is yet to be out. I don't know the law or strategy one can use to have an ID card in this nation. I want to process my passport, but Mbankomo police station is preventing me from having my passport since the station had not yet processed my ID. I was supposed to travel this October, but I can't. I'm sick and tired of this nation, okay? Good evening, Mr. Liu. There is nothing impossible with Mr. President as far as elections is concerned. Even if all the opposition parties come together to form a party, as far as the president is still alive, I see it impossible. By Lekam is owned by him. He can control things anyhow. In fact, law has no power in Cameroon. Moma Allen is writing from Bali. Good evening, Mr. Liu. What is Barrister Ashu referring to as Southern Cameroons registering massively in elections in Cameroon? Barrister seems to be mixed up with Amber philosophy and one and indivisible Cameroon. Christopher is writing from Bamenda. Cameroonians, good greetings, Mr. Liu. Elections has no place in Cameroon because Cameroonians will vote their president, but the Constitutional Court would give it to their choice of leader. Pambo is writing from Bankim. Cameroonians voted for Frunzi in the 90s, but we was given their choice a leader. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I like your program and wish to be participating on it. Again, please, for that man's number who succeeded with his ID card in Yaoundé. I have the same problem too. Menkem is writing from Suza. Good evening to you, Mr. Liu and Senior Barrister Ashu. Please, I wish to ask our Senior Barrister, if you are the Cameroon today, you are the President of Cameroon today, what will you do to reduce ID card process and tribalism in our country, Cameroon? I'm Naftali Kum writing from Boya. Greetings, sir. It's Mr. Ansu Emmanuel from Bonaberi Douala. I think the ID card issue, the Cameroon government needs to put an SMS message to inform us to know what is the complication with our ID cards and to our center of submission. Good evening, Mr. Liu and the Senior Barrister Ashu. Why is the renewal of a legitimate ID card requires a compilation of several documents for it to be obtained? Pastor Marcos is writing from Boyam. Okay, Barrister, please, why is the information in the ID card not used to produce a new one? Why do some identification posts give back expired ID cards to owners and some do not? Yannick is writing from Yaoundé. Yes, because is it the same person wants a new ID card and you have to go over the process?
Mr. Kum, you see, when we criticize this CPDM regime, it's we are really right to do that. There are certain things that people don't know. The ID card that you have is computerized. It is made in such a way that if it drops somewhere, it can be located. Your ID card can be located from the police. They can tell you that it is near this gutter at this quarter. Just go there, go and pick it. You see, but with all that sophistication, we are surprised that the service that has all the information in the machine, they don't use it. Why? I mean, that caller, that participant, rightly put his question. If you misplace your ID card, why can't they simply reprint it and give you? Because they have all the information there. Why do they require you to go through the process of compiling new documents. That one is simply because it is the practice in the civil service. Go to the civil service. Every time they want something from you, you must go and compile documents from scratch, from ground zero. Bring all your documents. They're all there. But they tell you that no, bring this one, bring this one, bring this one. The ones that were previously filed there, what happened to them? You see, that is the system that we of Reform Party think that should be scrapped. That system should be scrapped and replaced by a simplified system that enables people to obtain results, obtain solutions without having to travel to Yaoundé. You see, there is no need asking somebody who has produced documents in your keeping. You ask him to duplicate. And even after duplicating, you still don't give him satisfaction. You don't give him a document that you're supposed to give him. It's nonsense.
Good evening, Mr. Leo. Can someone use his old ID card to have the new one? I'm Ejuba Lawrence, writing from Ikita, Nguti subdivision. No, it's not possible.
You still need to produce your birth certificate and a secure nationality.
Okay. Good evening, sirs. The only thing that can make Cameroon be the same as it was in the old good days is by making a true Anglophone who had not been corrupted by the regime in power a president. If a renewed mind Anglophone is not made president, rapture will meet Cameroon in worst crisis. T-Boy is writing from Kumba. Tabi in Limbe, please, Mr. Kum, tell Barrister that the government has rather been detecting Ayuk Tabi and not talking, okay? I don't know what you mean by that. Good evening, Mr. Leo. I'm happy with this program. How are we going to go for elections when we of Ndian Division have no registration center for voters card? Ayuk Thomas, writing from Mundimba. Strange to hear that. There should be...
No, there isn't. There isn't. That's true.
There is no election in Cameroon as far as the CPDM is concerned. Cameroonians will vote, but the victory will be given to their choice by their court. Is writing from Bankim. I'm sure you are sending it twice. But I think there are elections, and are these not also some of the thoughts that deter people from going to register and would not want to defend their votes, knowing that the CPDM will always win? We have opposition members who are MPs. We have opposition members who are also municipal councillors.
Mr. Kum, that is a fallacy. CPDM has lost elections in this country.
Okay.
They have lost. There was a time when SDF beat them pants down. SDF had all the councils. I mean, if they lose once, they can still lose. So forget that thing. The solution is that people should go and register. I will take very seriously the comment of somebody who said there are no centers in Indian. Yes, that's true. But, I mean, they have been showing you how to vote. They carry their people to the Francophone area, go and register them and vote there. Why don't you do the same? Go, leave India, come to a place where there is relative peace, register there, and you come and vote. So I think you can also beat them at that by coming to register near the places where there is relative peace. That way, they will not be able to cover your vote, because when you say CPDM is powerful, look at the results. They win at times with 10 votes. 10. A whole center, 50 people vote. No, it's terrible. Our people are not interested in elections. Please, we should develop that interest. Let us end voter apathy by registering massively to vote. That will overturn the minute CPDM majority, CPDM authority that is governing us. Because they are in the minority, but they are governing us.
Okay. Good evening, sir. I'm Jume Bruno from Yaoundé. I really love your program. A Chinese scholar once said, the starting point of all achievements is desire. Weak desire brings weak results. Just as a small amount of fire produces a small amount of heat. We Cameroonians must rise and fight this regime. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Leo. I'm Carlson Bignor, writing from Bafia. I'm always happy watching your programs and extremely happy when you bring our brilliant brothers to talk on topics like this. I thank you so much for your great work that you are doing. Thank you too. Good evening, please. I wish to ask what about the birth certificate they are rejecting? Does it mean that they produce fake birth certificates? Is Desmond, writing from Mark Bar. Good evening, sir. I'm SMA George writing from Assam. I wish to ask the senior barrister, how is it possible for the Anglophone to be the president when the constitution clearly states that the post of the prime minister is for Anglophones? Please, I need clarifications. No, there's no disposition like that. Yeah.
There's no such thing. No, there's no such thing as the constitution providing that the post of prime minister is for Anglophone. No, no way. Somebody asked a question about his birth certificate. He has a birth certificate, but it was rejected. Now, you see, if you obtain a fake birth certificate, it will be detected. There's no, you see, please don't go to the quarter and ask people to manufacture a birth certificate and give you. It will not pass. There is something that you have to know. Every civil status registry carries the birth certificate booklet to the court. The court stamps every page and numbers it. So when you take a birth certificate, the first thing you look at is the stamp of the court. The second is the serial number. So when you go to the court with a birth certificate that doesn't have those, what do you want them to do? They reject it. Because you don't know that those things have been instituted for control. When you bring a birth certificate and they look at it, it does not have the stamp, it doesn't have the serial number. You are looking at the mayor saying, no, no, no. The court has its way of controlling those things. So please, obtain the birth certificates from the proper civil status centers. They will not be rejected.
Okay, I hope the message is gone through. We should take our time before we establish our birth certificates. No need to playing pranks. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Ask barrister that can we not take the establishment digital? I mean, if all old manual records with conflicting entries be discarded and everyone who had applied for ID asked to do it online for a minimum sum of about 8,000, just like passports, can be a way out. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Leo. I am Mr. Mukong Felix from Mutengene. Can I please have your contacts? Okay. My contacts, it's okay. You have my contacts there. I don't know what you want us to discuss. I hope it's business. Good evening. Barrister, if EU can't force Cameroon government for dialogue, how can they assist in the reconstruction? Good evening, please. I would like to ask the senior barrister, with the ongoing crisis, do you think it's still a good idea to take the risk to invest in agriculture? Okay. Barrister just confirmed that a court declaration is not needed to produce an ID, but why does the police ask for it when one goes for the ID card? Okay. Senior barrister, we are talking, yes, we are talking about 2025 elections. You say your party is running for the elections, but we have persons who say, I will not run for elections until the electoral code is fixed. Others say, I will not run for elections until the Anglophone crisis is solved. You are an Anglophone and you say you are running for the presidency. Are you not concerned about what is happening in the southwest?
Thank you, Mr. Kum. Our running for presidency is a way of solving the crisis, because if we run and we pass, then we bring an immediate end to the crisis. If we don't run, if we boycott, we solve nothing. The crisis remains, and the people who are there will continue staying there, and they will continue with their war effort. So we think that the better thing to do is to take control of the country and put an end to the crisis and move the country straight to prosperity. That, in our opinion, is better. Talking about the fact that I'm an Anglophone and I want to run. Look, I talked of Southern Cameroon and somebody did not understand. Southern Cameroons is what you call today Northwest and Southwest province. That the official name is Southern Cameroons. That state is there. Whether you like it or not, it is there. So all the so-called Anglophones of Northwest and Southwest, you are all Southern Cameroonians. Even the state of Cameroon today recognizes it in the draft family code, where they try to define who a Cameroonian is. A person who is either born in the Republic of Cameroon that obtained its independence, on the 1st of January 1960, or originates from Southern Cameroon that obtained its independence on the 1st of October 1961. So, a Southern Cameroonian is somebody who is known. It's present-day Cameroonian. Please, if all Southern Cameroonians were to register massively, and on election day you vote Reform Party, I bet you Mr. Biya is in power, whereas he was not voted by up to 3 million people. If all Southern Cameroonians were to register and vote, look, you will obtain more than that. And if you add that number, add your numbers to the number of militants the Reform Party has, there is no party, there is no way Mr. Biya or any other person can fraud elections and win. There is no way. We, to go along with what we have been saying, Reform Party is the only party that has an anti-electoral fraud plan. Look, you see, we have not been talking about this since, but we have an anti-electoral fraud plan. If we are running, there will be real trouble in the other side, because they will have to match us. They will run for their money. We'll give them a run for their money. But 2025 is coming, or whenever the elections are called, you will see to it that it is not just a joke. We are going to beat the CPDM or whoever and take the presidency.
Okay. Mr. Liu, I think there is no reason for us to vote again in Cameroon, because when a particular candidate wins an election, he still don't have the right to rule. Example, Frundi. Are people actually voting, or they just sit and say these things? Do they really go out to vote?
Mr. Liu,
the statistics are very clear.
Last time we saw the elections, Bamenda, I was surprised. Bamenda, uptown, the number of people who voted, 71. What nonsense is that? People like this should leave this type of derogatory statements and go and register.
We have less than 3 million people who go and vote, and
in a country where there are more than 30 million people. People like this should abandon this derogatory statement and go and register. You cannot remain in criticism. You refuse to register. You refuse to vote, and you authorize CPDM to continue mismanaging the country. Please, if we are suffering today, it's because of you. Because of their misbehavior. You should abandon voter apathy. Please, you cannot rule the country without voting. Go and register, and on election day, make sure you vote. And when you are voting, protect your vote. Stand up to see that it is not rigged. Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Liu. Please ask the senior barrister how one can get a copy of the draft family code. Tafu is writing from Yaoundé. Barrister, is it possible to actually have a confederation in this country? Please explain how that can work. Mr. Vladimir writing from Ghana. Excuse my impudence. Good evening. Before that, okay. Yes, you are talking about a confederation. How is that going to work?
Thank you. What is a confederation? A confederation is a loose union between two states. A confederation is very possible. A confederation is like a federation, but the union is a loose one. In a confederation, you have the two states maintain their sovereignty. They can decide to have their diplomatic services, separate diplomatic services. They have common interests. They may say, okay, we have one national army, one police force, but we have separate diplomacies, separate diplomatic services. You see, you run your country, I run my own, but we have common interests. That is it.
That is what the Reform Party wants for Cameroon?
That is what we want, because, I mean, you consider the two cultures cannot, there is no way, the two cultures, the Francophone culture and the Anglophone, the two are like oil and water. You cannot mix them. You can't mix them. There's no way. The best way in this country is to have them run independently. Let those two cultures run independently, side by side, and the population will solve the thing. They will find their way to live together, like it's happening now.
You think that a majority of Cameroonians will vote for that?
Mr. Liu, to your surprise, I have seen Francophones. I met about 2 Francophones who left here. They are currently living in Muyuka, despite the war. They are there. They prefer living there than coming here, because they went there and saw the way people are living. They said, no, what we have in Dollar is nothing. You see, for those of them who have had a taste of life this other side, it is better. Why do you think most Francophone elites send their children to Anglophone schools? Why?
Okay. Good evening, sirs. The only thing that can make Cameroon be the same as it was in the old days is by making a true Anglophone to be president of Cameroon. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Question to Barrister. If elected president, are you going to accept dual nationality? Yes.
I will answer that.
Claude Laji. Just take note of that. Let me read some. Mr. Liu, my next question to Barrister. Mr. Nnamdi Kanu was released from prison by the Nigerian High Court, but Mr. Ayuk is still in prison for the same crime. Why? Yes, that was in Nigeria. We are in Cameroon. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I'm enjoying your program. I wish to ask the senior barrister whether it's possible for someone to make a passport with an ID card receipt. Thanks. Yeah, it's not possible. No. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Please, I wish to ask the barrister what can be done if a police officer confiscates your ID card and property for 1 year, 3 months without convocation. Ernest is writing from Yaoundé. Yes, but you should report him. Good evening, Mr. Leo. We need amendments to the Cameroon Constitution before we can ever dream of having an Anglophone at the Unity Palace. It's Ngwa Awanto writing from Virginia, United States of America. Good evening to you, my brother. Good evening, sir. It's Daisy De Ross writing from Yaoundé. Does the Biya regime have any plans for an Anglophone to end the Anglophone crisis? Hello, Mr. Liu. Good evening. I think that a barrister have a very good mindset to drive Cameroon forward, but how can his party take away Cameroon from Western countries, especially France? Because I think having a central bank is something that all the countries of Africa should fight like one to have for the continent. So please, Mr. Liu, ask the barrister how possible is vision without even a full-blown war. Mr. Goloff is writing from Bamenda.
Thank you. We'll take the first one. Okay, let me start with the last. How possible is it to have a central bank in Cameroon? Let me remind you that BEAC is not a central bank. BEAC is acting as a central bank. It is not a central. It's just something like an association. Countries came together and say, okay, let us have this thing. It is not a central bank. Okay. If you look at what they call the Accord de Siège, it is very clear. It's not a central bank. So Cameroon being a member of BEAC does not stop Cameroon from having its own central bank. It doesn't. So you can have your central bank and still be part of BEAC. So if you are a member of BEAC, does that stop you from controlling your public finance? Certainly not. So we can be members of BEAC and have our central bank.
Okay. Someone asks about dual nationality.
Thank you. You don't even need to crack your head there. If Reform Party is in power, you have dual nationality. It is even a matter of course, because our children leave this country and go out there for greener pasture. They are forced to take foreign nationalities in order to get that greener pasture. So it is nonsensical nonsense to refuse them to bring back, to repatriate their wealth. Whatever thing they have worked outside there cannot be brought home because you say you don't want dual nationality. What nonsense is that? It is a matter of survival. If these people know what it is, our brothers have huge fortunes out there that can be brought back home and they help this country, you see, to develop. But when you ask your own child who obtained, for instance, American nationality, he comes to Cameroon with his property, you say no, he is a foreigner. You treat your child as a foreigner. Oh no, this is terrible. It is not permissible. You treat your own child as a foreigner. Remember even this prominent musician, Richard Bona.
Ndedi
Yango. Look at that. How can you say Richard Bona is not a Cameroonian? How? Okay. No nonsense. We will make dual nationality the principle.
Okay.
It's a principle.
Thank you, Mr. Liu and Pa Barrister, for this brilliant program. We should not blame those in the diaspora anymore. Maybe there are many fractions will become their own political parties if Bazonia will become an independent country. You, Peter, is writing from Banyu. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Please ask the barrister how can one become registered militant of his party. I'll send you his number so that you can get to him if you want to join a Reform Party. Good evening, sir. The idea of an Anglophone president is good, but the problem here is that of population, since the Anglophones are the minority. What is the party of the barrister doing to capture other regions? This is Uncle Fanny, writing from Yaoundé. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Please, seriously, I don't understand what Barrister Ashu is saying. It's placing defense for both nations. Ndika Diodune is writing from Limbe. I don't know what you mean by that. Dear Mr. Kum, one can make a passport with ID card receipt if one has a photocopy of the old ID card. I did mine last December like that. I can help direct the person what to do offline. Nkwa Jacob is writing from Kumbo. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I really love your program. As 2025 approaches, I want to let the Cameroonians know that a toothbrush that has been used for 40 years ought to be changed. Such a worn-out toothbrush cannot boast of experience. Sona Milan is writing from Kumba. Good evening, Mr. Liu. How do you describe the Canada-Quebec situation? Can it not work in this country situation? Mr. Vladimir is writing from Ghana. Mr. Liu, these politicians are confusing us Cameroonians. Senior barrister says West Cameroon was a state, but last time Professor Julius Ngo said Southern Cameroon was not a state. Now I'm confused if Southern Cameroon was a state or not. Zaire Ryan in Kumba, please, they should clarify us, okay? I wanted Senior barrister to be on that platform that day. Unfortunately, he could not. I hope I have time.
I will answer the question if you give me time.
I hope I will have time to bring you both again to talk on this. In Cameroon, results are known before elections are being conducted. Reasons why there is no voter apathy. Okay. Oops. No voter. There is voter apathy.
There's voter apathy.
Yes. Good evening, sir. I'm Fabrice Fu from Douala. Is it possible for an Anglophone to become Cameroon's president? Yes, it's very, very possible. That is why Senior Barrister wants to be the next president. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Is it good for the police to, in charge of ID cards, to take money from you before giving their origin? Okay, that's corruption. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I'm Ben, writing from Boya. Though not the topic, but I wish to know from Barrister Ashu, what advice is he having for students who left University of Boya and are currently having problems abroad because the Boya authorities are not issuing certificates to their students? Yes, but Senior Barrister is not a staff of that university, and we need to authenticate the information even before endorsing what you're saying. Good evening, Mr. Kum, or Senior Barrister. Thanks for your time to educate citizens with sound information, clarifying doubtful minds. This approach to prime is cherished instead of inviting less informed people, waste people's vital time earning with heavy sighs of dissatisfaction. From the Peter, writing from Mancon, Bomenda. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Please keep this video for Barrister in future. Will remind me in future. Chair in Bomenda. Yes, it's on our Facebook page, so it is going nowhere. It's always going to be there. Mr. Liu, please ask the barrister. I'm 40 years old and my birth certificate and other documents got burnt. The council where the birth certificate was issued also got burnt, and other copies can't be traced. How can I have a new one? Ferdinand is writing from Moyuka. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Thanks so much for what you and some elites have done to this country so far. May God bless you abundantly. At least some of us still have some hopes. Now, thanks so much for your words, Senior Barrister. Muma is writing from Bamenda. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Tell what happened to Frunzi in 1992. Mr. Yu is writing from Douala. Yes, but we are in 2022. Ballot box can't change anything in Cameroon. Pa Ashu, okay? Yes, but I think we need to walk over that. Good evening, sir. Just wish to ask if your mother is from a Cameroonian and your father is Nigerian and you born in Cameroon, you can have Cameroon ID. Dixon, writing from Limbe. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I hope the barrister should not be like these other Cameroonians who, after saying things clearly like this, they go out to frustrate us. Okay? Yes. Senior barrister says he won't do that. Let me take two messages and then you can comment. Good evening, sir. I really love your program. Very interesting and captivating. I wish to have the number of Senior Barrister. I am John Mbome writing from Limbe. Good evening, Mr. Liu and Barrister. Please, to me, the voting will never change anything as long as the President of the Constitutional Council is concerned, instead of me spending transport time. Okay, Emmanuel is writing from Gusu. Yeah, many persons are still under this. Can we say that it is you fell along the road and decide never to travel again? So many persons believe that through the ballot box they can't change things.
Okay, you see, they are mistaken to think that things cannot be changed. I said CPDM has lost election despite the fact that they have all those their things. See, they have lost elections before. You just need to know what to do. You see, I'm an old hand in this thing. I started politics in 1985. I was one of the founding fathers of SDF. I know exactly what I'm talking about. I know where to hold them, and it will be difficult for them to breathe. So if we want to go for elections, CPDM will have it really tough and hot. My advice is that people should just go and register. Leave the results to us. Please register, and when the election time comes, go and vote. Allow us to handle the rest. You see, you are bothering about things that you cannot control. It is a political party that has the means to oversee all those your worries. It is not you. For your own, play your own part, because we need to have the population that will be out there voting. You see what the government told the CRM militants? When it comes to time for election, you people don't register, you don't vote. You only take to the streets to go manifest. You see? They were right. Because most of the people who take to the streets have not registered, have not voted. And that is the reason why this identity card issue is very important, because for you to register, you need the ID. That brings to mind, I think somebody asked a question. He said that fire consumed his birth certificate, everything, even the council. Please, go to the nearest court. If your parents are still alive or you have any relative, go make a declaratory judgment that can enable a civil status officer to establish you a new birth certificate, and that can be used to make an ID card.
Okay. Senior Barrister, we are talking about elections, and you say despite the Anglophone crisis, even if it were not solved, you're going to run.
We are going to run.
Because you intend to use the position to fix the Anglophone
yes,
crisis.
It's a solution to end the crisis.
And
we have to run.
And you think that the European Union cannot force the hand of the Cameroon government?
No, they can't.
Okay. And you also think that if the Cameroon government wants to talk and solve this problem, definitely they should talk mostly with the guys who are on the ground?
They should talk with everybody who matters. The population, the fighters, the elites, the diaspora. They should talk, and even those in prison. They should talk with everybody. Don't leave any person, any faction outside. Okay.
And you also are disturbed by the various factions who hardly agree to any. We had the CDN, not everybody endorsed it. The Swiss talk was not also endorsed by everybody, and recently the Canada confab, not everybody is. You
end up asking yourself, what do they really want? CDN came up with very brilliant ideas. They came up with a documentation that nobody ever had. It's thanks to CDN that I can sit comfortably and say, this is what happened. Thanks to CDN. It's thanks to CDN that the United States Senate came up with a legislation on Cameroon. So this, I mean, you ask yourself what these guys really want. They say it was coalition for surrender. Now the Canadians want to help. You see, they are at each other's throats. So I think that we are giving them too much credit. That is the reason why they are doing all that. Because we are giving them too much credit. If the population were to take up its responsibility, I am saying that the solution to this crisis is not war. Please let us take it political. Go and register. Register when the election comes. Vote Reform Party, and you will be surprised. We'll rule this country from A to D.
Okay. Now, you rule this country from A to D. senior barrister. Now, with what is happening on the ground, you say the people have legitimacy, are those who are supposed to be chosen by the guys?
Ask the people on the villagers, the population, to give you representatives. Which other legitimate people do you want? Ask the population, give us your representatives. They will give you. Okay. In your village, they will say, no, we have a son who is Mr. Kum Leonard. Call him. The village knows, the people know their sons and daughters who are knowledgeable, who can represent them. You see, it is not parliamentary. Most parliamentarians in some areas were voted from Yaoundé. No, the population doesn't even know them. You see, I prefer that they ask the population, give us people. How did Agobala and Co. end up being a consortium? The population, the people just came and said, no, you go and represent us, you go and they ended up having tough people who could talk.
Okay, we have come to the end of today's edition of our Prime Hour. Thank you very much, Senior Barrister Ashu Emmanuel, National President of the Reform Party, for accepting to come and talk to our audience this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Kum, for giving me the opportunity to talk to my brothers and sisters, my fathers and mothers. Thank you very much. I hope we have some other opportunity other day.
Okay, we want to also thank you all who took time up to watch this edition of the program, as well as also thanking you, Eli and Desmond, for producing the program across the week. Tabi Tambe, Brian, thank you too for supervising. Today is Friday. We also are wishing everybody to have a splendid weekend. Celebrate moderately so that on Monday we can start another new week under the guidance of God Almighty. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.
Black, it's not dark, it's bright. Black is bold.